My name is Lily. I'm 38 years old and live in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. Nearly 14 years ago, I married Jack Holden, a man my friends once called the dream husband, a skilled, charming, intelligent lawyer who always knew how to make people feel important. On our wedding day, as she adjusted my veil, my mother whispered, "You hit the jackpot, Lily. His whole family's accomplished, and Jack? Well, men like him are a dying breed." I smiled, though. Something inside me felt uneasy. Back then, I couldn't quite name the feeling. I assumed every bride-to-be felt a bit nervous. It took years to realize that feeling was the instinct of a woman handing her entire life to someone who knew how to hide darkness behind a perfect exterior. We lived in a 2-story wooden house in Arvada, on a street lined with maple trees where neighbors greeted each other with morning smiles. I worked in healthcare administration, a demanding job that left my brain fried most days. Jack worked downtown at a major law firm, handling corporate litigation. Always busy, always sharp, always with a perfectly valid reason for any absence. To outsiders, we were the picture of a model marriage, and I lived as if that were true. In the early years, I believed in his love. I thought Jack's suggestions about how I dressed, how I communicated, even how I handled work, came from a place of care. "That outfit looks unprofessional. Try the gray dress. It suits a meeting better." Or, "Sally's sweet, but she overcomplicates things. Maybe keep some distance." Each piece of advice was gentle, reasonable, almost protective. But slowly I began second-guessing my own choices. I deleted texts before sending them, rewrote emails 3 times before clicking send. Before every firm event, I'd spend hours in front of the mirror, trying to make sure I fit the image Jack expected. I stopped wearing the lipstick shade I loved. I quit calling my sister because Jack said she was too negative. I dropped my weekend yoga class because Jack felt weird about me going alone. Instead, I made sure the house was spotless before he got home, and forced a smile even after brutal shifts at work. Because if I didn't, I'd hear things like, "You've been home an hour before me and the kitchen still looks like this?" Or, "Didn't you say you'd wear the cream dress today? That dark one makes you look tired." I thought maybe I just wasn't good enough, so I tried harder, bent myself further, until I broke. One day, staring into the mirror, I no longer recognized the woman looking back. Her eyes were hollow, her smile forced. A shadow trying to be Jack Holden's wife, forgetting she was once Lily. The girl who laughed out loud, wrote poetry, loved winter mornings and hated being told what to do. We had no children. Every time I brought it up, Jack deflected. "Not the right time. Finances aren't stable. Or you'd have to give up your career, you know that, right?" Then he'd hug me, kiss me, cold and robotic, and follow it with just enough words to make me feel I was overreacting. I lived in that fog for almost 14 years, until one day, the fog lifted. That Friday afternoon, rain poured hard, cold, heavy, and sudden, like everything swirling inside me. I left the hospital early with a splitting migraine. I didn't stop by the pharmacy. I just wanted to go home, crawl into bed, and turn off my phone. I didn't call Jack. In 13 years of marriage, I had never once come home unannounced. But something stopped me. Not rebellion, intuition, a quiet flicker of warning that kept my phone in my pocket. My car rolled to a stop in front of the house, windshield wipers blurring the maple trees. Jack's car was already in the garage. Maybe he canceled his afternoon meeting, I thought, stepping out, pressing my hand to my throbbing temple. The front door was unlocked. That was the first red flag. I stepped in. The rain's noise vanished. The house was still. Too still. Not peaceful, but heavy. I left my shoes and damp coat on and headed straight upstairs. I didn't glance at the kitchen. I didn't need to. As I neared the bedroom, I heard it. A woman's laugh. Light, unguarded, and too familiar. Then Jack's voice, low and playful. "You're driving me crazy, Dana." Dana. The name hit like a slap. Dana was Jack's new legal assistant. 8 years younger, blonde, always posting selfies in elevators on Instagram. I'd met her a few times at firm events. Once she'd told me, "You're so lucky to be married to someone like Jack." I stood frozen at the door. It wasn't fully closed. Through the crack, I saw everything. Their bodies tangled in the sheets, I'd changed the day before, her cream dress tossed over a chair, his shirt on the floor, the way he kissed her shoulder. So tender, so familiar. Was a scene I never asked to witness. I stepped back, quiet, careful, deliberate. I don't remember how I got outside. Suddenly I was standing in the backyard, fingers gripping a wooden bench, rain soaking my hair, my coat, my carefully hidden emotions. And then I cried. Not just because he cheated, but because I had doubted myself. I thought I was being paranoid when his schedule shifted, when hotel conference trips came without room details, when his shirt smelt faintly of unfamiliar perfume. I had blamed myself for being insecure. But now, I knew. I wasn't crazy. I pulled out my phone and typed a message. I won't be home tonight. Don't call. I didn't send it to Jack, I sent it to myself. As a declaration, from this moment on, I owed no one permission. A delivery truck passed the alley, jolting me out of my daze. I turned and walked away from the house, carrying nothing but my pounding headache. Jack had no idea I had seen him, no clue where I'd go. But I knew. And that was enough for a beginning. That night, I drove straight to the only person Jack had never managed to edge out of my life. Maya, my college friend who now worked as the head ER nurse at the hospital. Maya lived alone with her old bulldog Finn in a small apartment in Lakewood. The moment she saw me, before I could say a word, she opened the door wide and said just one thing. Well, it's about time, isn't it? I collapsed onto her couch, soaked from the rain, and stayed silent for 3 whole minutes. Then I nodded. Lily, you can stay as long as you need, and if it helps, Finn will sleep on the floor, Maya said, handing me a cup of hot tea like she'd been expecting me. The next morning I requested 3 days off, citing exhaustion from work, which wasn't a lie. But the real reason was this. I needed time to start untangling myself from the life Jack had wrapped around me layer by layer. Step 1 was finding a lawyer. Maya referred me to Sandra Blake, a divorce attorney specializing in complex property and financial cases. Our first meeting lasted over 2 hours. As I recounted everything, from the subtle control to the affair to the hidden finances, Sandra wasn't shocked. The most important thing right now, she said, is to secure your emotional and financial safety. And Lily? Never underestimate how dangerous it can get when a controlling man realizes he's losing control. Sandra advised me to quietly gather evidence. No confrontation, no dramatic texts. Once you have the full picture in hand, that's when you sit down at the board. That evening, I returned home, quiet as a ghost. Jack was still at the office, according to the shared calendar I once believed was just for scheduling ease. I carried a small external drive hidden in my coat and an old phone Maya lent me, wiped clean of any personal data. I started with Jack's home office. His computer was asleep, not locked. I woke it up, hands shaking, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The password was a combo I'd figured out years ago, the name of his childhood dog and his college graduation year. Inside a folder labeled Legal Drafts, I found a strange file. postnup_review_v3 doc. I opened it, my heart dropped out of my chest. It was a revised postnuptial agreement, something Jack intended to present to me for our 15th anniversary next month. It stated that in the event of divorce, I'd receive just 10% of our assets, no access to long-term investments, and 0 rights to the house we lived in. I saved the entire folder to the drive and moved to the security folder. A spreadsheet titled Track_LSLSM popped up. It contained detailed logs of my activities, hospital shift times, credit card transactions, gynecology appointments, names of patients calling my work phone. I stopped breathing for a few seconds. This wasn't just control, this was systematic surveillance. I also found spyware installed on my phone called PulseSync, which had been silently forwarding copies of my texts and calls to Jack's alternate email. I forwarded all this data to Sandra from a secure account she set up for me. Next, I opened the filing cabinet. In the second drawer, beneath a stack of tax documents, were bank statements I'd never seen before. Several accounts were solely in Jack's name at a different bank. Regular wire transfers went to other places. One of them to D.H. Dana Henderson. I photographed every page. And finally, I took back something that was mine. My late mother's jewelry, which Jack had suggested we keep in the bank for safety, but had actually locked away in his private safe with a new code. After 3 guesses, I hit the right one. Dana's birth date. The safe clicked open. When I left the house, I didn't take any clothes. I took only what Jack never thought I'd be smart enough to find. 3 days later, I woke up at 6 a.m. without an alarm. In my head was a plan laid out step by step like a campaign blueprint. Not to scream or lash out, but to end things with precision. I knew Jack would never admit what he'd done. He'd deny it, twist the truth, play the wounded husband if it was just me. But in front of people he respected, family, colleagues, trusted peers, his act would crack. I needed a neutral, elegant private setting. Westbrook Table, the upscale restaurant on the edge of downtown Denver, where Jack once hosted his firm's biggest client dinner last year. I had helped coordinate that event, and the owner, Elias, still remembered me. "You want a private room?" Elias asked when I called. "Not just private. I need full control over the seating, the menu, even the staff schedule, and no one leaves until I say so." My voice was low but steady. After a pause, Elias said, "Okay, I'll trust you, but Lily, this is personal. I just want the truth to be seen, once. Clearly." I sent invitations one by one, each with a believable excuse that wouldn't raise suspicion. To Jack I texted, "We need to talk. I booked a table at Westbrook this Friday 7 p.m. Come, and bring Dana. I want transparency, no drama." He replied 3 hours later. "Honestly, a dinner with the 3 of us sounds unwise. But if you need closure, I'm willing." To Jack's mother, Helen Holden, I called directly. She'd always been polite, if a bit cold. I still remembered last Thanksgiving when she whispered to me, "I hope you know how to protect Jack's reputation. A good wife knows when to stay silent." So I matched her tone. "I know you admire Dana and are proud of her new position at the law firm. Westbrook is hosting a recognition dinner for standout staff. Dana was nominated. I thought you might want to be there." I heard her adjust her pearl necklace as she replied, "Oh, of course. I'll wear the purple gown. Thank you for telling me." And to the one person I trusted, Maya, I didn't need to explain much. "This Friday," I said as we sat on her apartment balcony, "I'm resetting the stage. This time, Jack isn't the director." "Want me to bring anything?" she asked, eyes steady. "Just your credibility." I also contacted Jenna, my cousin, the one Jack sweetly warned me not to get too close to because she's always trouble. Jenna simply said, "If there's a part where someone throws wine in his face, save it for me." And the most surprising one was Mr. Louis Sandler, Jack's former father-in-law from his first marriage. They divorced quickly when Jack was in his early 20s. Jack always claimed his ex-wife had cheated on him, but I always doubted that story. I found Mr. Sandler through a friend in the bar association, and when I told him I was Jack Holden's wife, he paused for a few seconds, then said, "So finally there's someone else brave enough to speak up." I invited him to dinner. "I can't promise I'll take your side," he said. "But I'll be there. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to take sides." I carefully printed every document, hidden bank accounts, the modified post-nup, phone tracking history, screenshots of Jack's emails with Dana, and a list of all the times he used fake work excuses to meet her. Each set was sealed in a black folder. I also prepared a short statement. No drama, no sarcasm. Just the truth, spoken in the voice of a woman who once trusted, once loved, and now knows exactly where she stands. Thursday night, I picked my dress. Sapphire blue, the one Jack once told me I should get rid of because it made me look too independent. I wore. At exactly 7 p.m., the private dining room door at Westbrook Table slowly opened. Jack entered first, charcoal gray suit, tie perfectly in place. Behind him was Dana, in a bright red dress, eyes scanning the room in visible confusion. But when they saw the U-shaped table with more than a dozen familiar and unfamiliar faces, Jack's mother, his sister Maya, Jenna, Mr. Louis Sandler, and even Dana's mother, the confusion quickly turned to caution. "Lily?" Jack said, trying to keep his tone gentle. "What is this?" I stood up from the center seat, resting one hand gently on the stack of black folders. Expensive dinner to tell the truth, and everyone is here so it can't be twisted anymore. I looked over at Elias and gave a nod. He nodded back and closed the large doors. Private, no one in or out. Thank you all for coming, I began. Some of you may think you're here to honor Dana or for some diplomatic reason, but let me clarify. This is a dinner to break the silence I've held for far too long. I opened the first folder, pulling out bank statements and transfer records. Jack, for the past 3 years, you've quietly moved nearly 1/3 of our joint assets into accounts under your name only, using an out-of-state banking network to cover your tracks. You thought I wouldn't notice because I'm not good with money, that's what you said. I looked him straight in the eyes, my voice steady. His mother Helen frowned slightly. Jack, what is she talking about? Jack gave a dry laugh. It's just money management, Mom, business strategy. Is transferring assets without telling your wife a strategy, I cut in? Or were you preparing for a divorce you'd already planned with that new postnup you were going to pressure me to sign on our next anniversary? The room went still. I opened the second folder. I also discovered you've been tracking my phone for the past 2 years. These are logs of my calls, messages, and GPS locations collected through spyware you installed. Every day. Every week. Dana turned pale. You actually did that? Jack stayed silent, his jaw tight. I looked around the table. I lived under such control I began to think I was paranoid. But this wasn't imagination. This was illegal surveillance. I pulled out the third folder and slid it toward Dana. These are printed emails and texts between the two of you. I selected only the parts that directly involved me. Not because I'm weak, but because I want everyone here to see the truth he's been hiding behind his polished image. Dana picked it up, eyes locked on the pages. Her mother, Marianne, turned to her, her voice like ice. Dana Marie Henderson, what kind of life have you been living? Jack jumped up. Enough. This is public humiliation. Lily, you're overreacting. Sit down, Jack, a deep voice rang out from the head of the table. Mr. Louis Sandler. Calm, commanding. Lily's been too generous with you already. Jack turned, as if just realizing he was there. You have no right to be here. I have every right to speak about what I witnessed. He opened his leather briefcase and pulled out a document with an official seal. This is a copy of the divorce file between you and my daughter, Emma. It includes full details of psychological manipulation, financial control, and social isolation that you inflicted on her. Jack's sister Marissa was stunned. You told us Emma left you for someone else. No, Louis said, locking eyes with his daughter. Emma left because you made her feel like a prisoner in her own home. The room froze. Jack could no longer stay calm. He braced against the table, face flushed red. I took a deep breath and placed the final folder in front of him, the divorce terms. You don't need to say a word. What matters now are 3 things: fair division of assets, full removal of the surveillance software, and your signed admission of infidelity to submit with the divorce papers. Jack let out a bitter laugh, but no one joined him. No one here believed him anymore. Or, I continued, everything I have goes straight to the State Bar Ethics Board. A long silence. Then Jack sat down. His mother placed her hand gently on my shoulder, wordless. Dana stood up, eyes filled with tears, and rushed out of the room. Her mother followed in silence. Jack lowered his head, but the look in his eyes hadn't surrendered. I knew that look. It used to make me freeze mid-sentence. But tonight his power had crumbled beneath me. I stared straight at Jack. You thought you'd drag me through a calculated legal war? That I'd walk into court with some second-rate lawyer, trembling and willing to settle? I placed a small business card on the table. The back read, Claire Whitmore. She's my attorney. Claire used to be lead counsel for Malcolm Reinhardt, the man you once said no one in the industry dares to challenge. Well, now she's standing with me. Jack narrowed his eyes. Reinhardt's team? She doesn't take cases under $500,000. I smiled. No, but the hospital can. The table went silent. I continued, remember the liver transplant case last year? The young son of a Southbridge executive? He jumped ahead of 12 other patients even though his medical indicators didn't qualify him. Jack looked up. There was real panic in his eyes now. The hospital opened an investigation. They found that the entire file flow was cleared through Dana and that there were emails from you pushing for expedited approval based on a personal connection with the boy's family. Maya gave a quiet nod, confirming it. The board is conducting a full review. And since I provided all the evidence, they've officially agreed to cover my entire legal expenses for the divorce. In exchange, I keep the case confidential until the ethics committee concludes their findings. I stared straight at him. That was my condition, and they agreed. Jack froze. Dana was no longer in the room to hear that part, but with her mother witnessing everything, and now speaking with a lawyer from the medical ethics board out in the hallway, I doubted she'd have a future in the field again. I don't want to drag this out, Jack, I said, my voice low but clear. You sign under my terms, we end this quietly, but if you want to fight, I'll take this public. Every financial fraud, every illegal surveillance record, and your unethical medical interference. It wasn't a threat, it was a simple statement of fact. Jack growled, You think you've won? You're still living off my money. No. I met his eyes, posture unwavering. I've lived in your shadow long enough. From now on I live by the truth I hold. I closed the folder, gently. And this is the last time I'll ever leave a room under your control. I turned to everyone else. Thank you all for coming. Tonight's expenses have already been covered. If you'd like to stay, please enjoy yourselves. As for me, I have a new life waiting. Maya rose before anyone else. Her silence said what words never could. She'd never left my side. Jenna took my hand. Helen, Jack's mother, stared at me for a long moment. Not with judgment this time, but her eyes held a quiet understanding. Mr. Louis Sandler walked over slowly. You know, Lily? Emma once wished she could do what you just did. You've done it for more than just yourself. I smiled. I did it for me. But if the truth frees anyone else too, it's worth it. I walked away without looking back at Jack. Tonight wasn't about him anymore. Tonight was about me, and the freedom I had finally reclaimed after 14 years of silence. The door closed behind me, but ahead of me was a wide, cool, open space. The night breeze caught in my hair. And as Maya wrapped her arm around my shoulders, I noticed my shoulders weren't tense anymore. No more fear, no more chains. And 11 months after that fateful dinner, I stepped out of Jefferson County Courthouse with a folder in my hand and a real smile on my face. But the divorce was finalized. No more threats. No more backroom deals. I received a fair share of our assets, including half the value of the house Jack had tried to hide, our long-term investments, and, most importantly, full control of my own bank account, which had been secretly monitored for 2 years. Jack signed without a word, his face missing the smug confidence that once made him so dangerous. Just 1 week later, the Colorado State Bar Ethics Committee released an official statement. Jack Holden was under extended investigation for using personal influence to tamper with medical records during a liver transplant case. While his license wasn't immediately revoked, he was suspended from promotion and forced to withdraw from the senior partner review board at his law firm. Word spread fast in the legal world. Some major clients, including a leading real estate conglomerate, quietly ended their contracts. I heard Jack took a consulting job with a small startup in Fort Collins. His income no longer touched 6 figures. As for Dana, she was fired from her law firm 3 weeks after that dinner. The reason? Ethics violation and loss of client trust. A friend in the insurance industry told me she relocated to Chicago to work in pharmaceutical marketing. She hasn't been seen at any industry conferences since. My life didn't change overnight, but it began with the smallest steps. I changed my phone number. Moved into a top-floor apartment in Edgewater, with a balcony that looked out over Sloan's Lake and a cozy kitchen perfect for Sunday night baking. I returned to yoga, not to please anyone, but because I liked how my body moved in silence. 3 months after the first court hearing, I was promoted to Director of Patient Advocacy Coordination at the hospital, a role I once thought I wasn't confident enough to handle. Turns out, when no one is holding you back every time you believe in yourself, you go further than you ever imagined. I started having dinners with old friends, the ones Jack used to mock as too loud, too unrealistic, or bad influences. They were still the same, still loud, still real. And this time, I didn't feel like I had to ask permission to keep them close. Maya, the one who opened her door to me that rainy night, is still my best friend. We started a new tradition. The last Saturday night of every month we dine at a restaurant I was once told wasn't appropriate for a lawyer's wife. Then someone new appeared. Not dramatic, not flashy. Daniel, an orthopedic surgeon. Moved from Seattle earlier this year. We met at an internal seminar. When I accidentally spilled coffee on the sign-in sheet, he just smiled and handed me a napkin, saying nothing about the stain on my blouse. We went out a few times, talked more, and one night, when he dropped me off at my gate, I realized I wasn't afraid of someone truly knowing me anymore. I didn't feel the need to hide any of my broken pieces. Maybe I wasn't ready to fall in love again, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I needed permission to be happy. Sometimes, I still jolt awake when the phone rings late at night. Occasionally, I dream of being trapped in the kitchen where Jack once asked, "Can't you just try a little harder?" But when I wake up, I know I'm in my own apartment, where no one checks my bills, no one tells me what dress to wear for approval. Freedom wasn't handed to me. I claimed it, with well-timed silence, with truth spoken at the right moment, and with a kind of courage no one else could give me. Lily's story is a powerful reminder that silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's the mark of a life under quiet control. In a world where appearances deceive, it takes real courage to face the truth and reclaim your power. Lily didn't choose loud revenge. She chose evidence, dignity, and truth. Her journey wasn't just the end of a toxic marriage, but the beginning of a life defined by freedom, worth, and light. What do you think about Lily's journey and how she reclaimed her life? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories about family, marriage, and inner strength.